Hey class, first I raise a toast with my WPR class in acknowledgement that Wyoming Public Radio is doing their fundraising right now. And I recommend you guys, if you don't listen to it, do. It's one of the best sources you can come up with all kinds of fascinating information that would help you in this course. And at $5 a year even, that's a great way to be a student who benefits from NPR. I can't believe I really just did that, but I did. So I want to give you one more pitch on this paper, kind of how does stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 fit into the larger progress of the course. I want that final paper to solve a problem. So I thought I'd try to model that by doing this little lecture today by helping to solve a problem that one of you all had with regard to how do I make sense out of these mini papers and big paper. Whoops, I have to stop for that. All right, resuming recording again, and believe it or not, I just thought I had resumed recording and just recorded a whole lecture and only to find out that I hadn't. So let's see if we can get back our feet back on the ground. Wanted to model for you the process of starting with a problem and how you solve it. Because I want your final papers, I want for you guys to have identified a real interesting but very small problem that is adequate to 15 pages. Now, discussing the meaning of hip-hop is perhaps a life's work that might begin with a 300-page book. All right? I don't want a thesis statement that says, in this paper, I will discuss the meaning of hip-hop. I am looking for you guys to solve an appropriate problem, like by looking at the historical role of music in the African American community. I will bring together a unique perspective on why hip-hop has become the first global youth movement. Even that's big, but at least you're identifying, I'm going to trace a few key moments, and it's going to point to a bigger phenomenon. And my evidence is going to be so good that you're going to think I did, in fact, catch the pulse of this. All right, so that's the kind of paper I'm hoping to find, that you guys can zero in on what's my unique ability to bring these texts we've studied together to solve a small problem that is supported with enough evidence that I wrap up a tight argument, 15 pages. All right, so solving a problem. I just received an email today in which one of your classmates asked, do we need to connect those two papers, stage 1 and stage 2? This is with regard, she's already looking ahead to her rough draft. Do we need to connect those two papers, stage 1 and stage 2, so they flow, then continue on with the rest of the paper? Or are we writing our final paper without those? Good question. In this class, we're writing 3 short papers in which you demonstrate your mastery of the readings as we go. These papers are pre-writing papers for that final paper. So that, in fact, yes, there is going to be elements drawn from your first 2 papers, probably, hopefully, in terms of being efficient, something from your 3rd paper too, and that all functioned as pre-writing for the rough draft itself. So, what does this mean? To write a research paper for African American religious culture, you must identify the historical context of the slave trade with sufficient detail regarding, for instance, the dates and the volume and the you know, an accurate picture of this. You have not begun to write a research paper for me if you cannot establish the historical context as part of the beginning of your paper, right? 2, you cannot write an adequate research paper for, no, let's put it in positive. To write an adequate research paper for African American religious culture, you must identify the impacts on a human's experience as it has been powerfully described by a key African American thinker. So, stage 2, we looked at subjectivity, that internal narrative by which remarkable African American thinkers articulated the ultimate significance of their place in the world, from Du Bois' Souls of Black Folk to Cone's Black Theology. So you have got to be able to describe. I did a pretty good job here. You must identify the impacts on a human's experience as it has been so powerfully described by some of the giants in African American culture. I gave you 2 of those giants. You already wrote 1 paper on them. Use them. Now, if you want to bring in Sojourner Truth and her Ain't I a Woman to add a gender dimension to that, that's great. But your paper must cover acknowledgement, recognition of the impact on personhood in African American religious culture. All right, moving down. In your 3rd paper, your stage 3, you wrote about your focus against the backdrop of 20th century varieties of African American religious experience. So in that, gave you pre-writing your chance to start zeroing in on your focus, but then you also had to show me mastery of the texts. So showing me against the backdrop of these other traditions, how you can still pick up threads of conceptual resonance in how each of these traditions has provided a meaningful response for the people who are part of them. All right, the student went on to ask, I'm doing my final on music as an important aspect of religious culture, and I'm wondering if I should simply focus on hip-hop or if I should broaden it to include traditional music, drumming, etc. All right, at this point in this little lecture, everybody in the class should be yelling, you gotta go back to do the history. You don't get it. Just start on hip-hop, right? Are we all clear with that? Now, the clever person is going to pick up on Equiano's discussion of music in his culture. What did he say? We're all poets, dancers, singers. It's something like that, right? So you've got the earliest roots of music that you would then, in your historical context, you would be picking up on. In terms of subjectivity and personhood, where did you find in Du Bois a discussion of the power of the music? Where did you find evidence in Du Bois that the power of the music was significant for the souls of black folk? Right? So then you would move that through into your contemporary stuff. All right, so let's look at a possible outline for this student. Intro paragraph concluding with that focused, bold thesis sentence that identifies your solution to a problem. Got to be appropriately typed for a 15-page paper. Then let's set the historical stage, the historical context of the slave trade. In this case, with a focus on the role of music as identified in Equiano and Black Magic. Show me how well you mastered that material. Bring it in as evidence. Then, moving into the more thesis-driven study of your focus, let's say you want to cut that up into a 3-part presentation of music. You might look at early, mid, and contemporary African American religious culture. So, first part might include discussion of the ring shout and the early spirituals. The second part might include a brief discussion of music and civil rights. We didn't hardly touch on that, but maybe you can. And then third, moving into hip-hop as the first global youth culture, how it seems to have a resonance across the globe, regarding providing people an orientation to the ultimate significance of being a force, a youth culture that has risen from oppression. I mean, which kid doesn't want to feel like they are oppressed and rising creatively through those ashes, right? And so there has been a global identification with the themes found in hip hop. All of you will have to figure out how to weave the issue of subjectivity, how to weave the impact on a person's experience of their selfhood, how your particular focus illustrates triumphs or tragedies in people articulating the ultimate significance of their place in the world, right? What are those internal narratives? And then, of course, your conclusion replays how you've gone through the progress of the paper to restate the thesis with a crystal clear new spin that just sends it right out of the ballpark. And your reader is left going, I got it. I got it. That's new. That's good. They got it. So, guys, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to be gone this Saturday through Tuesday. I'm going to be off at a funeral in Massachusetts. I and many people this semester have hit some hard times, and life goes on and the semester goes on. It is, I want to respect each of you who has faced a challenge this semester and has moved through that challenge. And hope that you, since I'm not going to be very available to you as you wrap up stage 3, work with each other, provide some compassion and some intelligence and wit in that discussion thread, and help each other solve the stage 3 problem. Think about moving on to that rough draft, and safe travels to all of you. Bye.